Who is your avatar? I don't know why, Knight of Longbow Malcolm kind of looks like me. Change his bow and arrow into a lacrosse deck and you might actually get somewhere. But anyways, here's my $5 limited fight Royal Paladin deck profile. This is a great budget deck out of the next stage, and I really enjoy playing this deck. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Starting off with the grade 3s, we have 4 Knight of Longbow Malcolm. He has this great effect to where when it attacks on Vanguard or Rearguard, you can counterblast one and return a Rearguard and another column to your hand, and it gets plus 15,000 power until the end of that battle. If you go Force 2, it'll swing for 28k with a crit, which your opponent will have to block, or Force 1, the 38k. With its skill, you could afford to call Perfect Guards and heal triggers to be more aggressive and then bounce them back to your hand, which isn't bad at all. So he's pretty versatile in that aspect to where he also works on Rearguard. So I saw this deck list on Twitter and the winning image came about by somebody named YKD Common. I'll leave a link to his tweet below, but my list has a little bit of a few differences than his. But one of the cards that is the same is Field Feather. Field Feather being able to counterblast one Soul Blast 3, which will always have the Soul Blast 3 for the most part, and draw the number of cards equal to the number of open rearguard circles. And then you call the same number of cards from your hand to rearguard is pretty powerful. So if you have 4 open rearguard slots, you'll be drawing 4 cards, and then you have to call 4 cards from your hand. It's really good in the sense to where you could fill up your board and have fuel for Malcolm. And as mentioned, this is a limited fight deck, so you're not going to have access to the double rares and above. Next for Heinz, he is the alternative finisher for this deck. He also has a gift, because Field Feather is a giftless grade 3. We want to run some other cards that have gifts. I kind of slid. But Heinz has this really good effect where when it attacks on Vanguard Circle, you can Soul Blast 2 grade 3, so it's more of a finisher in that sense. And then you call any number of cards from your hand to Rearguard, and then those units gets plus 10,000 power, and for the rest of the turn, when your opponent would guard, they have to call 2 cards at the same time. So it gives them all the Battle Roar skill, and if they're at 5 damage, they have to drop effectively 8 cards to properly defend your turn, because you have 1, 2, his skill, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next for grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Galatine. Galatine's not bad at all because this deck needs the defense. As for our triggers, we have a really aggressive lineup, so the defense is really good to ensure that we could guard and survive some of our opponent's big attacks. Next, 3 Jaron. Jaron's really good because it's a 15k attacker. So when it attacks a Vanguard, you have 3 or more rearguards to get plus 5k until the end of that battle. On a Force 1 marker, it will swing for 25k on its own, which will force a 15k shield out of any player. 4 Loading Angel to act as Pot of Greed. So at the end of your turn, if you have 5 or more units, you could counterblast 1, put it to the soul, and draw 2 cards, giving us more cards that we could attack with in the following turn, or more cards to defend. And he fills up soul for Field Feather. So he's kind of our advantage engine for the deck. Because Royal Paladins don't really have many draw cards outside of the really expensive options, K, Betterbeer, all those guys, or cards that are under below double rares that fill up your field, you have to run Loading Angel. So I think that this is pretty optimal, and you gotta run it if you're playing any budget Royal Paladin deck. Next to Espogel, he's really good when comboed with Field Feather. So when your other rearguard is placed by a card ability, it gets plus 3,000 power and boost, making it a 12k booster or a 12k attacker if it's in the front. So with Field Feather, it can make a 25k column. It can make a 40k column with Malcolm if you're boosting it. So it's really not bad at all. Another soul charge card that we run is Pure Bright Unicorn. So when placed, you have 3 front row units, you could soul charge 1. And then if you also have 5 or more units, it gets plus 5k. So it's a 12k hitter, attacker, booster, whatever you need it to be depending on the situation. And fills soul for Field Feather. And if you soul charge a grade 3, you could use Heinz with it. So it just fulfills multiple roles for the deck and has a really good budget option. Next, 3 Sifkal. As mentioned earlier, Malcolm is really your first ideal ride, and since you only play 4 copies of it, you have to find a way to get to it. So Sifkal just helps that. So when placed, you discard a grade 1 or less card from your hand, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 3. He acts as kind of a filter card for our deck, so we can filter out any lost cards or cards that won't really affect our game, draw triggers even, and try and get something better. And then we play 4 PGs. This, of course, is the Drop and Draw Sentinel. Like I said, filtering It works well with Sift Goal because you have multiple ways to filter cards in your deck. And then you could always discard a quick shield with its effects, so you always, if you go second, so you always have good value out of it. And it's a perfect guard, so gotta run it. For triggers, we have 10 crit. We have a really aggressive lineup because Malcolm looks to wrap up the game as fast as we can, so that's why I think that Force 2 is pretty good in this deck. 2 draw, Margle, and 4 heal. So pretty aggressive lineup, and of course the starter is Barkle. Every starter is now rotted to get a quick shield, so don't forget to grab your quick shield. So yeah, that's the deck. There's nothing more to say other than I really enjoyed playing this deck, and I really think you guys should try it out for yourself. It's super fun to play, especially when you win some games, because it could have some really consistent numbers across multiple turns. And like I said, Malcolm kind of looks like me. I don't know why. I was really drawn to him. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time with an upgrade to the Kagro $10 OTK deck.